Figure Plus Club. Welcome to the Six Figure Plus Club. I'm Kelly Martins, your host, and today I'm joined by Julia Bocchese, founder of Julia Renee Consulting. Julia specializes in SEO, Pinterest, and AI search services for small businesses, helping them increase their visibility and attract the right clients online. And what stood out to me about Julia's story is not just the work she does, but the longevity of her business. She's been an entrepreneur for nearly a decade and has navigated major shifts, including COVID, maternity leave, and the rapid evolution of search and AI, all while continuing to grow and evolve her business. So Julia, welcome. I'd love to start by having you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, about your business, and how you got started.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So like you said, I've had my business for 9 years now. So I started off more as kind of like a freelancer, doing all kinds of different jobs because I wanted to quit I was working a really boring corporate job that I didn't enjoy. I had a toxic manager, and I also wanted to go to grad school, actually to study history with a focus on the Viking Age. It has absolutely nothing to do. Yeah, it was quite a shift from what I was doing. And I wanted to have a flexible schedule in order to go to grad school. I still wanted to work to be able to pay for grad school. So I started freelancing. I had learned marketing and SEO and different things from a travel photography site that I launched as like a creative outlet for my really boring job. So I took those skills and used it to write content for small businesses. I was also doing some random ones like graphic design for an opera company. And also I was doing content writing for a compostable toilet company that creates toilets for RVs. So really all over the place.
Very diverse.
Yeah. So kind of that first year, I was like figuring out what I enjoyed, what I was really good at. And I really honed in on SEO and Pinterest because I could see a lot of growth with my clients when their content was optimized. So I started focusing on their websites as a whole. I was doing some Facebook and Instagram for some clients, and I really didn't like that. But I liked Pinterest because it was a search engine, but then also had that creative side with creating pin graphics and things like that. So that's when I focused on SEO and Pinterest and really started focusing on building an actual business and not just being a freelancer. So I was in grad school and kind of accidentally built this business. So at the end of grad school, I was choosing between going for my PhD or just really focusing all in on my business, and ultimately chose my business. I have no regrets. It's, yeah, as you said, I've been through a lot of changes in the past 9 years, but I feel like every challenge is an opportunity to come out stronger than before. So it's definitely been an interesting ride.
So I love that you said, you kind of tried a little bit of everything, right? So I feel like a lot of business owners end up doing that, right? Especially if you're in the service industry. So if you're in marketing, you might dabble in social media, you might dabble in PR, you might try it all until you figure out what it is that you like to do. Do you have any advice for business owners that are in that phase right now and trying to figure out what it is that they want to niche down on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely nothing wrong with being in the testing phase, because I do see a lot of businesses who jump feet first into something and then a year later they have to totally rebrand and focus on something else. So I definitely take your time on figuring out both what you like to do, but then also what people need, because a lot of times there might be a mismatch in what you enjoy doing, but not actually what people need or see the most benefit from. So kind of trying to find that middle ground of something that's beneficial for people, but also something you actually enjoy. Because if you want to do it for the long term, you have to enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I say all the time, you have to zone in on what you're passionate about, because if you're creating a life for yourself and a business for yourself, why are you going to create something you hate, right?
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the beginning of your business, right? So when you first started, what did success look like for you?
For me, it was just being able to make money. I didn't really have any, data that I was tracking for client performance or anything like that. So just as long as I was able to make money in order to reach my goal of going to grad school and being able to afford it, that was my definition of success at the beginning.
So While you were doing that, were you working somewhere else at the same time, or were you just heavily leaning on the freelance?
No, I was heavily leaning on the freelance.
And you mentioned that one of the biggest mindset shifts was moving from thinking of yourself as a freelancer to thinking of yourself as a business owner. So, what did that transition look like?
hmm Yeah, so that was kind of like a weird transition. I wasn't maybe not ready for, but wasn't expecting. But when I first started, I mean, I didn't know what online business was. This was like what, 2017, so it's definitely it wasn't what it is today. Now a lot of people have online businesses, even if it's just part time. But back then, it wasn't as big a thing. So I didn't know anyone who had an online business, and I thought just everyone was a freelancer working with Fiverr and Upwork and things like that. So that's why I started focusing on being a freelancer rather than a business owner. But then after is being introduced to the business world and everything like that, realized that I wanted to have more of an established business. I didn't want to have to go out and find clients all the time. I wanted them to come to me. I wanted to have set services and packages and pricing and everything like that. I feel like it's easier to be a business owner than a freelancer because it's a little less hustle once you're more established. So, but yeah, definitely that mindset switch was hard. Just, going from calling myself a freelancer to calling myself a business owner because I didn't feel like I was legit enough to be a business owner. I was only, I think, 25. So I was also very young and had no idea what I was doing. So even though when I switched to calling myself a business owner, it probably took a couple of months at least before I really felt like a business owner.
So, when you say you're operating as a freelancer, your definition of it is you're going out there, you're going on Upwork, you're going on and searching for work from
Mhm.
other companies versus building the brand positioning for yourself, building your brand and your business as a whole, maybe having a website and actually starting to promote the actual services that you want to offer and attract clients to, correct?
Yeah, definitely. And also just having those set services. When I was freelancing, I was again doing anything that I could find. But when I switched to having a business, that's when I really honed in on the exact services, pricing, packages, and everything.
So, what changed for you once you started seeing yourself differently? You had this mindset shift, like, I'm a business owner now. What did that look like for you?
I think I felt a little bit more confident pitching my services. That definitely took time. I was not immediately confident out of the gate. But then also just people were able to recommend people to me because they knew exactly what I did, what my services and pricing was. I, felt more confident even just showing up on social media. I finally started an Instagram account for my business specifically and not just working business into my personal account. So establishing myself in different ways, both in person, but then also online.
So, you had mentioned when we connected that one of the major turning points for you was hiring a business coach.
hmm
Can you talk about where you were in your business at that point and what led you to investing in that?
hmm Yeah, I think I was probably about 2.5 years in, and I think I was just felt stuck. I didn't know like how to really grow my business, how to scale things. I kind of just been at the same revenue level for a while. So I found a business coach. I actually searched specifically for one that had an SEO background because I wanted someone who's like really familiar with the SEO world and how the services work and things like that. So she was helpful for a lot of different things. We worked together for a while. But even things just like working on my systems, honing in on more of my services, getting rid of services that didn't really make sense or just were additional things that people may not be really interested in. And then probably the biggest thing that she helped me with was form partnerships with other related businesses like website designers and copywriters, people who are interested in adding SEO onto their client projects. So it's a bit of like white labeling for other business owners who are similar size to me, not necessarily labeling for a large agency. But for a while, I would say that made up 50% of my revenue. So that was, I mean, she definitely helped me with the ROI there. I definitely got more of my investment back after working with her and kind of like figuring out some of those systems. So, I mean, today I'm still partnering with a lot of website designers and copywriters. So it's something that I've been using for several years now.
Something that is a recurring theme on this podcast is the importance of a business coach and finding somebody that has walked the path before you. You know, if you really want to take yourself to the next level in business, it's so important to find somebody that is in your niche, that is a little bit ahead of you, that can kind of help pave the way. So I love that you did that. And one thing I want to do is I kind of want to backtrack for a second, because I'm in marketing, you're in marketing, but not everyone knows what SEO is and not everyone knows what white labeling is. So can you maybe address that?
Yeah, so SEO stands for search engine optimization. So basically, I just help small businesses be able to rank higher on Google and reach more of their ideal clients who are searching for what they have. So white labeling is when you essentially are like a contractor for another business or an agency, but under their name instead of your name. So you're essentially removing the label of your business, I guess. I don't really know where white label came from, but I'm guessing something kind of like that. So when I white label, I work with a website designer. She is the one who gets the client, starts the project, gets all the information from the client, and then I come in on the back end and do all the SEO work, and then she hands everything off to the client. So usually there's not any client interaction on my end when I do that. Sometimes they just prefer to refer their clients to me so they don't have to be the middleman. But that's like how the partnerships or white labeling works.
So can you talk about how your partnerships are set up? Because I feel like there could be people listening that are maybe website designers or maybe do SEO as well, that have interest in maybe taking advantage of something like that. So can you tell me maybe a tip about maybe something that you learned from your business coach that might help other people?
Yeah, so I mean, I think probably what my business coach helped me with is just telling people I offered the service, because a lot of website designers or copywriters, they aren't doing SEO, or I found a lot of them know the SEO basics, but they just don't like doing it. So once I said, oh, I actually do offer this service for copywriters and website designers, they're like, oh, I really need this. I really want to do it. So there are a couple different ways that I work with them. I'm pretty flexible depending on how they have their business structured and how they want to do things. So some people just totally refer their clients over to me because, again, they don't want to be the middleman. They don't want to have to do the exchanging of the money from the client and then over to me and things like that. So if they don't want to mess around with that, then they just refer the clients to me, and then I send them back a referral fee for every client that books. And then some of them do prefer the white label, so that way they are able to look more like an agency to clients. They look like they have a team. So one website designer that I work with, she has kind of white label contractors that I do the SEO. She has one that does the copywriting and one does the brand design, and then she pulls it all together for the actual website design and structure. So in cases like that, it's kind of, she does all the communication with the clients, gets all the information that we need in order to do our work, and then we'll go in kind of, depending on her schedule, when things kind of like work in. So the brand design has to be done first, and then usually some of the SEO work in order to pass it over to the copywriter, and then I'll come in and do things at the end. So a couple different ways I work with clients depending on what's easier for them and for their clients. I do also sometimes do just training sessions for website designers. One actually came to me recently, she was having a weird issue with a new website that she was working on with a client. They were switching from one website platform and they're having problems with that. So she hired me just to do a training session to work out some problems with the website that were more on the SEO development side. So I'm pretty flexible. But yeah, if you do want to offer partnership services, I'd recommend just telling people that you do it. I do also have a page on my website, so that way when a website designer comes to my website, they can immediately see that I do offer these partnerships, and I have some information on the types of SEO services that I offer within it.
I love that. So it's a way of generating additional income and recurring income and collaborating. I think that that's a great way to bring in another source of income outside of, marketing yourself and bringing in your own clients.
Mm-hmm.
What are some revenue opportunities that you feel that maybe some business owners are overlooking?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think definitely some sort of collaboration is something that's overlooked. Another way I collaborate is one of my business friends who is actually a website designer that I partner with. She and I host business retreats once a year. Even if you don't want to collaborate directly on a service, you can find other ways to collaborate and bring in another source of revenue. I've done hosting training sessions that I open up to anyone, workshops, things like that, especially if there's something new that's coming out. So I did host an AI search workshop a couple months ago. That was really popular. I probably need to do it again. But whenever people are, kind of seeing what's trending or what's new and they want to learn about it without having to go down the rabbit hole of doing all the research, that might be something worth doing a workshop on.
So can you talk a little bit about AI in search? Because I know there's a lot of people that want to show up in Chat GPT and show up in all these AI platforms. What are you seeing right now when it comes to AI in search?
Yeah, so AI search is definitely kind of something newer. So it's always changing, which is both a fun challenge, but then also kind of like frustrating. But yeah, people are definitely starting to use ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini. I actually got my first lead from Claude the other day. So people are using these AI tools as search engines. One difference between how people are using Google and AI, because people are definitely still using Google, it's not going anywhere. But Google is typically used for shorter searches. So something like physical therapist near me. And then people are going to these AI tools when they want something really specific. They don't want to have to search for something that's the best match. So I'll give an example. I'm tall and I have large feet, and not every brand carries my size. So I went to ChatGPT recently to get recommendations for some sneakers for working out. I didn't necessarily need running shoes, but I wanted something that was supportive for going to the gym. So I asked for recommendations for size 12. I need arch support. I need something within this price range. I need something that has good reviews. And I gave it a lot of different parameters in order to get those really specific results back. So when people are going to AI, they're not just searching for running shoes. They're getting really specific with their searches, which is actually beneficial for small businesses, because if you have all of that information on your website, ChatGPT is much more likely to recommend you rather than maybe a larger company that doesn't have as much information, or the information doesn't best match what someone is searching for.
So in terms of managing SEO and then searching in AI, are there any key differences that people should be aware of?
Yeah, so there's a huge overlap. So anything that you're doing with SEO will help your AI search results. So doing things like focusing on targeting strong keywords, having informational website copy and things like that. One thing that is more beneficial for AI than SEO is having FAQs on different pages. So having some FAQs on your homepage, if it makes sense, but definitely on your services page, both because AI is looking for quick information and quick answers when they are searching for things, but then also if you have the exact question that someone is searching for. So, how much does an interior designer in Philadelphia cost? And you have that question, and then you have the answer that's related to your brand on your website. Then ChatGPT or Gemini can pull that directly from your website and cite it and link back to your website. So that's kind of a big thing that AI is focusing on. Also, one slight difference with AI and SEO is AI typically only crawls the top third of your website, or the top third of a page on a website. So Google's reading the entire page in order to get all the information to know what to rank you for, where to rank you, things like that. But AI, because they are searching in so many different places in order to find all the information that someone is searching for those, again, the really long, really specific searches, they might only be crawling the top third of a page. So you do need to make sure that all of the important information is towards the top. So if you have a blog post, you can add just a summary of the blog post towards the top, or people are doing like the TLDR. So finding ways to add the most important information, or like summaries toward the tops of the page, is going to be beneficial for AI. And then probably another kind of big difference is AI has a lot of digital PR that they're focusing on. So they are looking to see that you are an authority with your brand, that you're getting brand mentions and essentially endorsements from other places. So doing things like podcast interviews, or getting reviews on Google Business Profile or other directories, getting featured in local publications, or Reddit is actually really huge for ChatGPT. So if it makes sense for your business to be on Reddit, there are people who kind of like focus on Reddit strategies. So getting other brand mentions across the web is really going to help your AI search as well.
So for people that are just getting started or in small business and they don't have maybe the income to invest in someone to do SEO for them, what would be a recommendation for them to focus on as a starting point to help with their visibility?
Yeah, so I definitely focus on building up your website, making sure that you have strong, informative website copy because Google AI platforms and potential clients are reading that in order to understand what you do, who you help, where you're located, if that matters. So making sure that you have all that information on your website. Make sure you're also targeting strong keywords, which I know kind of trips people up. But even if you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of using keyword research tools, just even clearly stating what you do is helpful. I was actually just talking with someone recently who said she's an email ghostwriter. And I stopped for a second. I was like, I don't really know what that means. So she meant that she was an email copywriter, but she was using the term ghostwriter. And it confused me. And as someone who might potentially hire her for that service, I wasn't clear on what she did. I was also really curious and I did some keyword research after that. And no one is actually searching for the term email ghostwriter. So make sure that whatever you're targeting is clear both for your ideal audience, but then it's also something that Google understands what to rank you for. So if you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of keyword research tools, just make sure you are being very clear. Say that you're like a website designer, photographer, whatever it is. You can, of course, add in more language on your website that is maybe more poetic if that fits your brand or something like that. But first, being clear on exactly what you do so you don't confuse people is going to be helpful.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of ties into brand positioning too, right? When people go to your website, they need to understand what you do in 5 seconds, maybe even less now, right? So if I go to your website and I don't know what an email ghostwriter is, then I'm probably going to increase your bounce rate and I'm
Yeah.
probably going to leave, right? So being super clear about that, I think is just really important in general, not even just for search, but just to engage your clients and for people to understand what it is that you're actually doing, right?
Yeah. And even for me, as you said, not everyone knows what SEO is. So if I only talk about SEO on my website and I never say I help people rank higher on Google, then they're going to be confused about what I do. They're going to have to go back and Google what is SEO.
Yeah.
So even if you have something that is maybe people aren't familiar with, you do need to make sure that you're explaining it in language that everyone can understand.
So I feel like this is super helpful. I do want to shift gears in a moment, but before I do, I want to see if there's any other tips or tricks or anything that you can share about SEO, about Pinterest, about your expertise in general.
Yeah, so I would say, for SEO, really just focus on your website copy first. You can add blog posts and do more digital PR and things like that over time, but your website is really where you're going to be directing the traffic, even if it comes from social media. So you want to make sure that is set up both for rankings, but also for client conversions as well. One quick tip I'll give about Pinterest is that it is more of a search engine than social media. So I see a lot of times people are just trying to copy what they're doing on Instagram and moving it over to Pinterest, but that's not going to work. I'm sorry. Because Instagram, people are following you, your brand. They know who you are. They know what your services are, things like that. Whereas on Pinterest, they're searching for information. So it's very similar to Google. They're searching for information, ideas, inspiration, products, and they're not familiar with your brand. So when they come across a pin that you've done that is related to a blog post that you have, don't talk about yourself. Don't talk about how your day is going like you might on Instagram. Just talk about the information that's related to that piece of content or that product, because that's what people are on Pinterest are searching for. And they are more of a cold audience who is less familiar and probably honestly cares less about who you are and cares more about the information. So that's kind of a mindset shift for Pinterest that people struggle with when they're coming from a platform like Instagram.
I feel like that's helpful because on other social media platforms, we're taught we're the face of our brand. We show up as us. We build relationships.
Yeah.
Also, think about how you use the platform, right? Like you're going on there to find a recipe. You want to go on there, you want to find a recipe for banana bread, and you don't want to learn about the baker. You just want the banana bread, right? So
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that that's a really great tip. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually pins that have faces perform worse on Pinterest. Whereas like on Instagram, like you said, you want to show your face and people connect with you, but don't show your face on Pinterest unless you're selling makeup or something like that.
Okay, that's good to know. I actually didn't know that. So thank you for that. I want to shift gears now. So you're a mom and you run a successful business, and during this time, you managed 2 maternity leaves. Can
Mhm.
you talk about how you navigate your major life changes while running a business and keeping your business going?
Mhm. Yeah, so I've had 2 maternity leaves fairly recently. So my kids they're gonna turn 2 and 4 pretty soon. So not too long ago that I was on maternity leave. But for the first one, I did not really have a team. So I essentially kind of just essentially shut down my business for a month or two. I had a VA who was just monitoring my emails. And then one thing I did in my out of office email, I had both a wait list set up so that way people who were interested in working with me were willing to wait a little bit. They could be added to the wait list and I could contact them when I came back. And then I also had a referral that I would send people to. So if someone needed help right away, I would send them to this person who also offered similar SEO services, and then they would give me a referral fee for referring this person to them. So that way I was able to make a little bit of money while I was on maternity leave, and then also have a few people who were interested in working with me when I came back. So that definitely helped keep things going. For my second one, I did have more of a team set up. So I had someone who was able to manage all of my Pinterest client accounts while I was out. I had an SEO person who was able to do SEO help for those website design and copywriter partners that I had, that I didn't want to leave them hanging while I was gone, or didn't want them to find someone new and replace me essentially while I was gone. So I had everyone trained to take over those different services. I will say that maternity leave was harder to come back from because my daughter did not take a bottle for anything. We saw all the lactation consultants, all the pediatricians, and just tried all of the different bottles. Nothing worked. So she still had to be with me at all times for a really long time. I finally started getting some very part-time childcare help when she was probably 6 or 7 months old. So that was also hard to do calls with leads or client calls or something like that. I tried to limit as many calls as I could, and then also tried to limit those calls to just be audio instead of video calls. So that way, if she's crying, I could easily mute myself and they don't see that she's crying in the background or something. So that for her, I didn't get full-time childcare for her until she was, I think, about a year old, when she could consistently eat solid food. So that maternity leave and coming back from that was harder than the first one, but I at least had all of those kind of systems in place so my team members could help me when I needed to. And I tried to, limit as many calls as I could.
So, what did those seasons or your maternity leave teach you about sustainability in business?
hmm I mean, one thing I think is definitely just getting all the support you can, whether it's in your business or, I mean, with your children. When people hear that I work from home, a lot of them assume that I work with my children with me. And I could absolutely not do that. They're way too crazy, especially at these ages. So there's no way I could get anything done if they're actually around me all day. So get any childcare that you can, or even just support in the home with cleaning or cooking or something like that. So that way you're not feeling as frazzled trying to do everything and wear all the hats.
Have there been moments where you've questioned what you were doing and if you wanted to continue after becoming a mom and kind of juggling a business? That's a lot, right? So, has there been some mindset moments where you wanted to give up?
I would say probably not so much for maternity leave, but I think during COVID, that was kind of just, I mean, it was a weird time in general.
It was.
But I mean, as soon as kind of like the world shut down, I had clients who had to immediately cancel their contracts because their spouses were laid off and they couldn't afford to keep paying me because they needed to hold on to all of their money, which I totally understand. It also felt weird to be selling during that time because so many people were struggling. So I think I held back, and I did pivot and offered more affordable workshops if people weren't able to afford to pay for my services. So I did try to have some lower price things or more free guides and things like that. So that was a time where I was definitely trying to figure out if I should continue my business, if I should, I mean, I don't even know if it would be worth trying to find a full-time job because no one was hiring at that time. But that was just kind of like a weird time of no one knew what was happening. And then everyone kind of like felt weird about paying money for services and also selling their services at the same time.
I totally get that. At the time during COVID, I had an e-commerce store and I sold clothes online. And I'm like, nobody needs clothes right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it definitely was, a
Yeah.
weird time of life. Like I've never, thought I'd go to a conference and see people walking around without masks
I
again, right?
know.
It's
Yeah.
just so weird. Thankfully, we're through it, and hopefully
Yes.
we never have to go through it again. But is there anything else that shifted with you with mindset? What kind of took you to the next level in your business? Was it a mindset shift? Was it working with that coach? What was it for you?
Yeah, so definitely working with the coach was beneficial. I think another thing is just connecting with other business owners who are in the same stage or a little ahead. Actually, the website designer I keep mentioning, she has a son who was born a month before my oldest, and then she has a daughter who's a little bit younger than my youngest. So she's someone that I connect with a lot, both in business, but then also understand the mom life and then also the balancing business and having kids, especially when we don't have full childcare. So that's been something that's been really helpful for both having a connection, but then also be able to bounce ideas off of and get a new perspective on things. So even if you don't have a business coach, finding a mastermind or just business friends where you can share ideas, get feedback, just connecting with other people is always helpful.
Definitely. I agree. You hear me saying every podcast that I have that I just am a huge advocate for business coaches. I think that they're so important.
Yeah.
But in terms of how your business is set up, do you have any specific tools that you're using, a specific CRM? What's in your toolbox that you can share with people that might help them?
I would say my toolbox is pretty small for someone who does like techie things. So yeah, I do use Dubsado as my CRM. I've been using them probably for like 8 years, so I can never leave at this point. I'm like grandfathered in on their price. I use Flowdesk for emails. I'm also grandfathered in on their beta launch price, so I'm never leaving. For keyword research for SEO, I use Key Search, which I always recommend to people because it's definitely one of the more affordable keyword research tools if you are starting out. It's like $17 a month, I think, whereas SEMrush and Ahrefs, those bigger ones, are like thousands a year. So if you do want a more affordable option, Key Search is always my recommendation. It has lots of other tools within it that's helpful for SEO, but keyword research is kind of the main one. Other than that, I use Google Drive for everything. For AI tools, I use Claude the most. I'm still definitely not using AI for everything I probably could be, but I use it for more of getting ideas or trying to figure out how to phrase things. So Claude, I found I prefer that over ChatGPT and Gemini.
What is one thing that you think every business owner should understand about visibility in marketing?
I would say you don't have to be the most visible, but you do need to work on your visibility. You also don't need to be in the most places, but just being strategic with how you're visible. I'm an introvert, so I don't like going to a lot of networking events or showing up on YouTube or Instagram stories all the time. So when I do marketing on social media or something like that, I'm strategic on what I say or who I'm speaking to or what I'm talking about. You don't have to be the most visible, but you can just kind of be strategic with it. And also that way you're not wasting a lot of time trying to speak to everyone. Just speak to who your ideal audience is in the places that they're actually active on.
Right. Just showing up where they are versus trying to be everywhere, right? If they're not on TikTok, don't worry about TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So is there anything that you see entrepreneurs maybe overcomplicating?
I mean, a lot of things. I would say probably a lot of what I see is overcomplicating their services or like how they're speaking about their services. Um, I struggle with this too, but a lot of times I do focus on selling more about what's in the package rather than what the end result will be or what the client is going to get or feel after it or something like that. I mean, I can never guarantee SEO results, but I'm able to back up results I've gotten with clients with their data and case studies, but I still struggle with definitely focusing on more of, oh, these are the 10 things included in the package rather than what the end result is actually going to be.
I feel like this is so helpful for people because SEO is just something that people, when you're starting a business, can't fully grasp, right? Like they can go on social media and they can try and they can show up and make a video and post a
Mhm.
photo and interact. But I feel like SEO is one of those things that people hear it and they're like, it's daunting. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
touch that, right? So I feel like this is going to be super helpful for a lot of people listening. So I appreciate it. So I'm going to ask you one more question. So
Mhm.
if someone listening is building a business, what advice would you give them around what to focus on first?
Mhm. Yeah, I would first focus on who your ideal client is and, what their needs are, what their pain points are for whatever is related to your service. Because even when I'm doing SEO work and copywriting for clients, I'm still focusing on their clients. I'm not just trying to rank on Google for the sake of ranking. You really want to make sure that whatever's on your website is speaking to your clients because they're the ones who are giving you money. So you want to make sure that you are speaking to them in order to grow your business. And things like SEO and AI search, those are going to come if you are kind of being strategic with how you're speaking to your clients. But yeah, definitely focus on the humans rather than trying to game the system for the bots.
Amazing. Julia, thank you so much for being here and for sharing
Um,
all of your tips and all of your tricks. I feel like I said, it's going to be so helpful for people to hear. And for anyone listening who would like to learn more about Julia, I'll make sure to include all of her information in the show notes. And Julia, thank you again for being a part of our podcast. And I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.